Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Take flight. This is your captain speaking, and we will be flying at an altitude of amazing insight. The quote of the day is, "It's not the big things that add up in the end. It's the hundreds, thousands, millions of little things that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary."
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first episode of Take Flight. Listen, I'm your host, Ophir, and I have with me my two co-hosts, the wonderful Mr. Phil and the gorgeous Simone Malone.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
It's so great. It's so great to be here this morning. How are you feeling? First off, Phil, Simone, how are you guys feeling today? What's going on?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling definitely, I would say, refreshed and revived.
Pretty great. Pretty good. Super.
So you guys are excited about this episode?
Yes.
Yes, very excited.
Wonderful. Well, today we're going to be talking about our first book, Compound Effect, and I'm so excited to talk about that because I know that each one of us have gained so many nuggets that we can't wait to share with you. I have my notebook right here filled with notes, so I'm so excited to share this amazing book with you. Phil, listen, can you give the audience just a little taste of what the Compound Effect is about, and then after that we'll have our good old-fashioned discussion.
Well, basically, the taste of the compound effect. Basically, let me give you a taste about that. Basically, when you develop like small habits, you realize that over a period of time, stacked upon each other, that it makes you who you are. If we sit down, we realize that certain habits we did cause us to be at this level, be it good or bad. And it actually tells us that fast results don't always be the case. Sometimes most fast results are caused because of small habits that we develop over time, and the consistency of doing it over and over that cause some fast results to happen that people don't understand is based on those small habits. When fast results happen. So the book basically talks about being in knowledge of your small habits and just be mindful, because we have good and bad habits. Just be mindful of which one you cater to more, which one you develop more. The small habits that we cater to, we develop over a period of time is the result of who we are or who we will be.
Wonderful. That's such a great summary, Phil. And let me tell you something. I'm so glad that we actually read this book. Reason being, I think because a lot of the people, when they think about diving into something, a goal, or endeavor, they just kind of want to rush into it. They don't really take the time to really focus on the small things that add up and lead to the big things. So let's open this up for a discussion. Phil, Simone, what would you say is the biggest nugget that you took away from the Compound Effect reading it? What was your biggest takeaway? And not only what was your biggest takeaway, but how did you actually use it in your life to see the results that the book talks about?
I feel like my biggest takeaway would probably with his message, although he said a lot and of what Phil said, the biggest thing that I got from it was him saying, take action, And I feel that a lot of times that we do so many things, but because we live within our heads and I could speak for myself because I live inside myself sometimes, I think so many creative things, so many beautiful things, and I could be applying all these little habits, to get me to where I need to go, but never take action. Or I'm always in fear of taking action. And I think kind of that fear stems from the point of where we look at something, and we were discussing this earlier, where we look at something that seems so big, and it's just like, gosh, I want that. The goal seems so big, but I don't know how to get there, and I don't know how to do it. And I think the most beautiful thing he did was let us know that the devil is in the details, and let us know that take your time, slow down. Whether you change something 10 minutes out of your day, 2 minutes out of your day, it doesn't matter. In a blink of an eye, over time, it'll change. So that was the biggest takeaway for me.
Definitely. I 100% agree with you. Definitely in terms of, take your time. This is not a race. Everybody has their own race that they're running. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. And I think a lot of times we as people, we kind of want to wait for the perfect moment where everything comes together to do something, but it doesn't work that way. You'll never get the perfect moment. There's never going to be that one moment where it all clicks and it's like, boom, okay, I'll do that. Sometimes you got to start with what you have. It may not be much, but you start with that little, and then that little then adds up, and it builds and it builds. Next thing you know, you're on this big rhythm where you're successful and it's going, and you're like, wow, it started with the small thing that I did, and it grew. Just like, in the Bible, it talks about a mustard seed. When you look at that small mustard seed, you would never think that mustard seed would turn into a big tree. But that's how it starts. It starts off small and then it grows. Phil, for you, what was your biggest takeaway, and how did you use it in your life?
All right, my biggest takeaway was the sense of, okay, there was a PC broke, and it's basically was talking about, the olden day pumps.
Yeah.
PC was explaining how we all know back in the day, those pumps is the work here. You got to be pumping for at least 10, 15 minutes just before you get a little sprinkle of water. And he talked about how people, like, he used it as life, like different things we do as life. Like how people started no results, because you're pumping for a while, so you're not getting no results. And then when you do, some people after 2-3 years, they get one result and they're like, this it. And the same in the pump. After 10-15 minutes, you might get one sprinkle and you'll be like, this it. And many people quit. Many people kick the bucket. Many people quit their jobs or quit whatever they're doing because they put in all that work and they only get one results. And the same thing, like, I'm a network marketing, and sometimes it takes people 3 years to get that one person. And some people will quit right away because they're not seeing the process. They're not seeing the work. And imagine if that person at the pump decided to say, you know what, I can spend 10 more minutes pumping because I see trickle, I see little water, let me put some more, let me push more, let me push this different level. And in that 10 minutes, that's when all the water gush out. And that's the same thing when you're live. It's the same thing when we find goals of what we do. When you want to quit, don't quit. That is the point. Like, when you reach that level, when you do all that work and you get that result, one result is better than no results. And no matter the work is what you're doing, you building up that big, like Fl3ght said, you building up for that big moat. You got to keep at it one step at a time, one step. Sure. Edison took 1,000 tries to get one light bulb.
Yeah.
He don't even look like, people look at him and say that's 1,000 bills. He said, no, that's not 1,000 bills. And he doesn't even think that's 1,000 bills. And that's just amazing how it took him all those things, but he didn't quit. How much of us would have quit a long time out of the first 5 bulbs?
I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't quit, I ain't quit. I might have had the idea to do it, but like, mother sick dread, why I can't get it, like, come on. But like the spirit in me wouldn't let me. I might get a little down or take a break, but the spirit in me wouldn't let me quit. Because just like you say, I'm also a network marketer as well. And trust me, there's be some days that I'd be like, boy, Fl3ght, I don't know if this worth it. But then you know what is keeping me going? And I love what he said in the book, when he was talking about what's your reasoning for why you're doing what you're doing? Because that can keep you going. What's your why? Because when all the hypeness and all the energy go away, that's what is keep you moving forward. That's what is keep you going. when you remember your why and you say, yeah, this why I doing this, mother said, yeah, I can't stop because I gotta get to I gotta get to this point. I gotta get to this why. You understand what I'm saying? And he was talking about commitment, and I loved the definition that he chose for it. I won't be able to say it in verbatim, but basically, commitment is doing something when all the hype and the energy is gone. You still keep on doing it, despite of. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's really powerful. So I love the example you used too, Phil. But let me tell you something, Phil. And when you get in that water gushing from that water pump, right? You notice in the book he say you gotta keep a certain momentum to keep that water going, right? Because if you stop and you get comfortable and you say, okay, water coming out, I good, I just can relax. That water, the water can go right back down, and you gotta start from scratch again. So it's one thing to get success. It's another thing to keep the momentum of that success going. You can't get comfortable. You might not work as hard, but you still gotta have a rhythm going to keep that water coming out of that pump.
And I love what the both of you said with Phil, especially with this example. And I think a lot of people don't realize if you sit down and you were able to interview every single successful person, they would all tell you that they all had trial and error. Like, that's inevitable. Yeah. So like, there's no escaping it. There's only some people, and even if you were born into a rich family, or even if you were born into rich family money or anything, you still have to go through a process, because you can't ground yourself off of what your parents did, you know? So trial and error is the thing that everybody has to realize that. And once you realize those things, like, you'll be further. And there is no perfect condition to do what you want. Like, there's no perfect condition. Florida's weather is a perfect example of that. It's very bipolar. So it could be sunny one day, and you start running, and then after that, magically you could start raining. So, like, there's nothing you could do about it. You just have to go through it. Because let's say you're on a trail and your house is 5 miles. What are you going to do? Stop and stand in the rain? No, you're going to keep jogging until you either look for shelter. That's when you take a break from what you're doing in life, or you just keep jogging, and then after that, try to make it home. There is no perfect condition in what you want to do. So I really love what you guys are saying, and I love the example because it speaks to me, and it's just real. It's just real. This book pointed out a lot of real points.
That's the truth. That's the honest truth. This was such a great discussion, guys. And I feel like we touched on so many different topics. Actually, before we end, I don't mean to like put us in a somber mood, but I know especially for me and Simone, the fact that we're fellow actors, I know what happened recently over the weekend definitely hit us a lot harder. And I know, Phil, for you too, you were a huge fan of this amazing actor, Chadwick Boseman, who passed away from cancer. And I just want to find out from you guys, I know he left such a great legacy in the acting world and, you know, in general. For you guys, what was one thing that he did, whether it was a role he played, a movie he did, a quote he said during an interview? What was one thing that always stuck with you?
I would say that within his movie, you know, mostly everybody has watched Black Panther. I could appreciate him bringing the sensation of not really Black culture, I don't want to say that, but this appreciation of our connectiveness, if that's a word, to nature and spirituality and lessons from Mother Earth. And the biggest lesson came after he died. They usually have this show on YouTube. It's called The Hollywood Reporter or The Round Table, where they collect a couple like beautiful actors and they put them together and they just talk about life, like, you know, like behind the cameras to behind the scenes. And he was there on one of the episodes and he looked extremely skinny. And my first assumption, I'm like, this guy is strung out on coke, crack cocaine, you know? And about a week later, he died. And then I found out that he died from cancer. So it really struck me to say, like, hey, pin your mouth, you know? Sometimes you don't know what is going on with people, and you just don't assume that this is that, you know? It taught me a great lesson to just basically, in other words, shut up. Sometimes shut up. I don't talk about people all the time or whatever, but the time that I did, this guy was dying from cancer, you know? And it made me feel really bad, but it also taught me a great lesson to, that quote, be kind, because you don't know what people are fighting inside. You don't know. So just be kind all the time. It takes nothing off of you.
Definitely. And Simone, I'm glad that you even had the courage to say that, you know, because a lot of people, they wouldn't, you know, point at themselves and say, you know what you did was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. So I'm really glad that you took this opportunity to do that. And you know what's so crazy about it? No one could ever come to me with no excuse for why they can't fulfill whatever passion it is that they have. Dude finding out he had cancer in 2016. He still went on to pursue his passion for acting. When he did 42 with Jackie Robinson, when he did James Brown, when he did Black Panther, he was in between doing chemotherapy, dog. He was in between doing chemotherapy. Like nobody, like after hearing the story, you have no excuse. This man had cancer and he still was living out his dream. He still was fulfilling his purpose. Like you have no excuse for why you can't do whatever it is you want to do. You have no excuse. At the end of the day, it's your fault for why you didn't make it happen.